Guys were energized. Guys had great focus throughout the week and really understood our game plans, both sides of the ball, against obviously a really good Youngstown State team. I think everybody could see that they have a tremendous amount of ability. Defensively, I thought they were the best defense that we had played up to date. And then offensively, I know they're struggling a little bit at the quarterback position, but the running backs, I have a tremendous amount of respect for. They're both great players and both played an awful lot of football for them. So we were happy to come away with the win, big win at home, and now we'll turn the page to Indiana State. As we know, in November every game gets bigger, so this will be another big challenge, and we have a number of seniors, not a big class, but a bunch of crucial guys that have been a part of a lot of success here over the last 4 and 5 years playing their last game here. So we'll open up for questions.
Coach, you have any update on Nate and his status?
Yeah, he tore his ACL. So he'll have surgery here in the next few weeks and be shelved for the season, and we'll get him back for next year. And we'll play some other guys, some younger guys will step up, and that's the hand we're dealt. And feel bad for Nate because he's had a tremendous season, and but in the same respect that the train keeps moving, and Nate wouldn't want it any other way either.
His reaction and yours after finding out the news?
Well, obviously he took it hard. You hate to have your season cut short with, a couple of regular season games left. And, I guess big picture, you're really disappointed. You wonder about where it puts you and all those things. But from a small picture standpoint, okay, now we're moving on to this week. And that means Grant Morgan, who I thought played his best game for us on Saturday, will move into the starting lineup. And Blake Williams, Jack Narnell will have a few more snaps. Caleb Butler will move inside a little bit more. That's kind of what we're looking at now from a coach's standpoint of where do we find those 40 to 55 snaps that Nate was playing, and you can't shoulder that on one player. It can't just be Grant. We have to have some other guys be able to step up, and that's what we're looking at upstairs. But obviously really disappointed for Nate that it happened to him this late.
Jack Darnell obviously got more reps. How do you feel he's progressed through his redshirt freshman year? Because he's going to play more now.
Yeah, he's going to play a few more snaps. Jack's doing a nice job. He's just a redshirt freshman, and so he plays hard, making some mistakes that you'd expect a redshirt freshman to make. But if he can give us some quality snaps, whether I think he ended up playing maybe 10 snaps, if we can get him 15 or so snaps, it's going to really help us in the long run. With his development as well as our depth on the defensive line, but it still comes down to, are we playing a 55 to a 85 play game on defense?
Is there anyone from the defensive tackle group that hadn't been playing at all that you anticipate moving up, or the 4 guys that played after Nate went out?
Those are the four that we have, and everybody else would be redshirting for us right now. And the other thing that we're looking at, and we won't make any decisions on until we see it play out in practice, is the one position we do have a bunch of depth at is defensive end. Now, those guys aren't 285 pounds, but they do some good things. And you guys have seen Caleb Butler in there, and he's 240, but he's unbelievably strong kid. And Cole Karch and even Menard on some passing. So we have to try to experiment and think outside the box a little bit to see how we can steal some more snaps inside.
Jim Messner still slide in there in a pinch?
Yeah, we've talked about Mez. He has a pretty big role for us right now as that next tight end in some of our big sets. But whether it's short yardage or goal line or something, maybe we'll look at Mez as something that he was kind of our emergency guy on Saturday. Even though he hasn't practiced a lot of snaps there, he's played there in previous seasons. So he'll be somebody that we'll give a look at this week as well.
You played probably 2 of the best defensive teams in the FCS in the last couple of weeks. In the big picture, how do you feel you handled that?
Well, I thought we handled it really well as far as our ability to rush the football against those 2 teams. We were able to rush for 200-plus yards against both outfits, which is a really great sign that we're able to move the line of scrimmage. We are continuing to get more out of our passing game, and that's everybody. That's not, I think people want to look at it as well as at the quarterback position. I think it's all 11. We have to protect a little bit better. We have to run routes a little bit better. We have to have a little bit better schematics on some things. We have to, place the ball better from a quarterback standpoint at times. I think it's all 11, but for us to be successful, we have to continue to improve our passing game in general, but be different if we weren't able to have success running the football. We've had success running the football. Now we just have to get the passing game caught up a little bit.
Along those lines, Indiana State allows the most rushing yards per game in the conference. Do you anticipate Easton throwing 12 passes again, or are you going to try to throw the ball more even?
Well, we'll see how that game plan plays out. We're just starting to put it together right now. On Monday, we'll have our first practice tonight. But, every game's going to be different. Every matchup's going to be different. Are a lot of those yards are given up because they're trying to defend with 7 in the box? Or are they going to put 9, 10 guys in the box against us and force us to throw the football? We'll have to see how it plays out. But, we are still going to try to rush the football and need to be able to keep the defense off the field, to be able to move the chains, to create that physicality that we're looking for every week. But every week, every matchup is different. That's the thing we're going to talk to the guys about tonight is, once again, don't look at what happened in the previous week. What happened last week, whether it was us, Indiana State, South Dakota State, Illinois State, doesn't matter. Every week's a new week with different matchups, and this was a great football game last year. It was Easton's first start, but it was a great football game, and they have a lot of those guys back.
Where's King at right now?
He'll run around this week, and we'll find out. Jeff, probably, I wouldn't say much before Wednesday. We know about him, but he's somebody that they believe is going to progress this week. He'd be back before Bruce would.
What do you make of this Indiana State team? They played some close games. They beat Illinois State. What are you seeing from them?
Well, they're explosive. I'm on offense. I'm really impressed with the running back and the big wide receiver that's been there for an awful long time. And they create havoc on defense because they're blitzing from all different angles and in a lot of different fronts and doing a lot of multiple things. Youngstown State, they should have had beat. They did. I remember talking with Coach Spack and right after they played them, although it was their first game, I was really impressed with them during that game. And so whether or not they beat Illinois State, could have beaten Youngstown, been in tight games with Western and South Dakota and so on and so forth. They had one poor game that I saw, and that was last week against Northern Iowa. So I would assume, since it's their last game, and that's different from, with Indiana State and Illinois State having their last game and everybody else has 2 more, they have 18 seniors, a lot more than we have, double the amount that we have. They have 18 seniors that are playing their last game, and they're going to give us a great effort.
Coach, you talk all the time about the importance of turnovers, so it's not anything new, but at the same time, second in the Valley in turnover differential, you're outscoring your opposition 58-20 in points off turnovers. How big of a role have they played?
Been huge. Obviously this week, when we played Youngstown, that was two things we talked about. Trying to find a way to get a short field for the offense against a great defense, and not letting the field flip in special teams. And a couple of those kickoffs, when they're starting inside their own 15, that's like having a turnover. It really is, because now you're making them go the length of the field. And for us to be able to capitalize on the turnovers, for us to get 10 points in that first quarter, I think a lot of people thought, okay, we're up 17-0. Whether or not we score a bunch more, is that going to be enough to win? I didn't know at the time until we got early in that third quarter and just saw how the flow of the game was going, that that was the communication with our defensive backs especially. Don't give up the explosive play, and I don't know if they can rally on those 2 touchdowns they were down.
On paper, it seems like you guys have really gotten past a very difficult stretch, and now this is a 2-5 team, but whether it's you or talking to any of your players, the message is always 1-0 this week. Is that something that has always been part of the culture? Do you feel like that's something that you and your staff try to instill instill here?
Well, we've instilled that, I think, in the last few years. This staff has, especially. I mean, it's been mentioned probably years and years. I mean, everybody talks about trying to win the day and win the week, but we've really emphasized it over the last couple of years. And I think all of us know in this league, really anybody can beat anybody. And if you're not ready to play, you're going to get knocked off. If you don't have a great prep week, you're gonna not play your best. And I've seen that firsthand, whether or not it's several years back when Indiana State came in here and beat us, and I was a part of the staff and didn't have a great prep week, I didn't think. Prior to that, didn't have a great prep week last year before we played South Dakota. If you don't prepare, you're going to get beat. And even if you prepare well, everybody in this league is dangerous enough that if you turn the football over, if you don't tackle well in space, if you give up explosive plays, all the things that we all talk about and throw the special teams battle in there, all these games are 50-50 games until, you see how that flow goes in the first half.
Chris, the directional kickoffs that have to be very hard to do. A couple parts to the question. One, are you okay with that going out of bounds?
No.
In play? Okay. Second part then, is that game specific and returner specific?
Well, we're always trying to trap our kicks, for starters, and that was the best, obviously, that Cam had done this year consistently. He's banged a few of them down there. We always would say numbers and hash. Between the numbers and hash, closer to the numbers. You get it in the middle of the field, bad things happen. If you can kick it outside the numbers, and if you even look back over the last couple of years, Ben kicked a couple out of bounds trying to be perfect. And we always want those guys to push the envelope and try to get it to the numbers. Cam was just on point on Saturday. Whether it was the one field goal he hit where he drilled it, hit it really flush, to the kickoffs, he just felt really in a rhythm, and that's great for us because obviously the week before the kickoffs weren't as good, whether it was distance, whether it was position, and then our coverage unit wasn't as good either. It wasn't just all on Cam against Northern Iowa, was our coverage unit, but when you can pin it down there, boy, it's hard to get back to the field. And if you remember against UNI, that's what was happening, is they would start one way and then turn it all the way back to the field. Well, if you're cutting that field into thirds and we get that thing outside the numbers, I think our chances for success are greater.
This is the most your depth has ever been tested this season in your time?
Without a doubt. Now, you look at some positions and you knock on wood because you never know, but some positions we've had great success, great luck with as far as keeping guys healthy, and in other positions, we've really been hit hard. And, that's part of the gauntlet of the schedule that we've gone through, and it starts with the two non-conference games that we played in, and as physical as games as those were, as to the Big Ten game we played in, there were no buys on that schedule. There were no easy games, and when guys are having to play the full complement of plays, whether it's 55 or 85, and you don't have so-called easy win on your schedule, sometimes it catches up to you. And I don't know if it caught up to us, but we're down an awful lot of guys from a special team standpoint. That's what Chris Board's a great special teams player, and he's out probably another week, and you notice that against Northern Iowa when Chris wasn't full speed and then we had to take him out. I'd love to have Eric Perkins back there. Let's give Shep a break on punt return and get somebody else off the field, get Perk back there. Brock Robbins being out has really hurt our depth. So we're hoping to get some of those guys back. I don't know if it'll be this week. I know that some of the names that I just mentioned, they're at least going to get an opportunity to run this week now. How close are they to being back? I don't know. But no question, our depth is, it's why you do double reps. Let's go back to spring ball and fall camp. That's why when we're in spring ball last year, Cam Peterson was playing wide receiver and Fish was playing wide receiver so that we could make sure and get everybody repetitions. And now, they're getting their opportunity to play.
Is there anything specifically that stands out about this senior class that you would say kind of describes this group of young men?
Well, the fifth-year guy's resilient because there's not many of those fifth-year guys left. And, it's something that we'll talk about this week with those guys, the fifth-year guys, and there's not that many of them. That class just kind of fell apart, and those guys stuck with it. And the motto of those will stay will be champions. In my mind, those guys are the big champions. If you've been here 5 years and you see the guys that came in your class slowly go away, there's only a handful of them left. I'm so proud of those guys, and you guys know who those guys are, those fifth-year guys that they've played an awful lot of football. Some of them, whether it's MJ or Jack, maybe waited some time to get their opportunity to play. But those guys are Bison through and through, and they've been an integral part of our success all 5 years. And, from the time I started, when all those kids were redshirt sophomores, it's been fun coaching those guys.
3 or 4, 3 of them are North Dakota kids that have stuck around, 3 to 5.
Yeah, MJ, Jack, Lando, yep.
Did you learn anything from recruiting that class?
Jeff, you probably know the names more than I do, because that seems like forever ago, and so not particularly. I don't. Maybe we can go through it and hash those guys out and see what happened to them all.